You see, the trouble is that the vomiter vomits every so often, and that the creatures that are brought to the world this way, sometimes they stay with the vomiter for a while, or they just haven't traveled far away from it, and they can be
Problematic.
yeah, they can cause some trouble. So we just have to make sure that we keep the ship from being, for example, overturned.
Well, okay. Any way I can help?
Well, let's see. They kind of look at you and say, well, unless you know anything to do, for example, with a bow or something like that, then you should just stay below.
I have a bow. I can use it.
Oh. Well, you see, we're not very good with bows. That would be fantastic.
Okay.
All right. So
You just go and fetch it for me.
Yeah. So the idea here is that there are some creatures that might try to approach the boat, and that they can have these harpoons for the really big ones. These are not really fighting weapons that you would parry with or something like that. They're to puncture something huge. And then they also have their long spears and things like that to try to repel things that try to get over onto the ship. But they are particularly happy to have somebody who, for example, could, if something sticks its head up, could put an arrow in its eye or something and make it go
I'll
down
do
below.
my best.
Right, that would make them very happy. So
Maybe we did.
the only
choose
big
a
difference
good
for
choice.
you is that
Yeah.
this is not the right
This is
surface
moving.
for you. Yeah, it's an unpleasant surface for bow shots, so you're going to have to adjust a little bit to manage the situation. So, okay.
So far, I'm happy to have my bow back in my hands.
That's right.
To have my arrows back. I'm going to focus.
I'm amused at the idea.
To try
good
to
idea.
stand on my feet
Perfect. Okay.
and get some solid standing. We'll see how that goes.
Yes, that's true. We will roll for that. In just a bit.
How long have we been at sea?
You have been at sea only for enough days to go along the coast and then come out. At least 3 or 4 days. But even so, it's not the same.
feeling
Even
right,
if
but-
you're okay walking, it's not the same for actually managing a bow. Also, I am amused at the idea of Zort opening one eye and saying, "What's happening?" And you just say, "Oh, nothing."
Don't worry. Everything's fine.
So let's see. We have a roll to see just what, if anything, comes up out of the water.
Sorry.
So let's see what. I have a nice set of little pictures, even, as you can see. As for you, as you come closer to what appears to be this wall or phenomenon surrounding it, you will then see, of course, that it is an immense creature, and that what you are seeing is not one static object, but merely its moving body as it swims in a circle. And to your shock, you may even realize that it is not the entire body you are seeing,
crap.
just pieces of the back that come up once in a while. Right, so there's a lot more of it down there. So so yes, you can begin to say, wait a minute, born from primal chaos, that it's not really just a big animal. So let's see now. Indeed, why don't you make your occult lore roll and tell me what you get.
I have 55 and I get 83.
83.
Yes.
Okay. Let us say that they did not talk about this enough back at the academy. Perhaps that was in the next year schedule of topics.
Okay.
All right. We now have a little bit of fun description.
Just a question. The soldiers on our ship, they kitted up, right?
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that we kitted up as well with armors
Absolutely.
and stuff?
Yeah. Armor, no,
Armor,
but
no.
weapons, yes.
Okay.
And so the idea is that they expect to have to fight some kind of creatures once they go in, and that's not something they are. It might be a little bit alarming to see the better friends shaking hands before they go in. Right.
Yeah. All the little details
Yeah.
should have picked up on.
How does the amount of power I spend translate to
Yes.
my ability to get a good shot in these circumstances?
Are you talking about the stance of your... No, that's just going to be a dexterity check. You will not be spending power for that. Unless there's a spell in question, I don't think so.
It's battle magic, so...
Right, but what you have is... your
I mean,
multi-
I'll have to use power. I just wonder why it says 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I see what you mean. That has to do with the number of magical arrows that are released. When you use 1 power, you will shoot 1 extra arrow, so that's 2 total. So when you spend 3 points of power, then 4 arrows will come from your bow.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And each one is rolled separately,
Yeah.
which is good.
There's a limited amount of power. Plus
Well,
3
there is that
extra.
problem, yes, but you do have that 3 extra.
Yes. I'm gonna start with 3.
Okay. But you have nothing to shoot at.
extra. No, I'm just preparing.
Oh, I see.
I'm just preparing.
In that case, now is a good time to roll percentage dice for dexterity times 5, which is a very good roll for you.
Oh, good. I'm just gonna break it. 70, right? That was close.
Oh.
66.
Oh, excellent. Well, we can now have a very exciting cinematic imagination moment of Skava, who we have seen previously walking like this along the deck of the
finding
ship.
her
Right, finally
footing.
getting her foot, puts 1 foot up on the edge of the ship, which in English is called the gunwale. 1 foot up there, and her knees bending with the motion of the ship, so her
got
bow is
it.
completely stable, and it's really sexy and, athletic looking, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I am seeing in my head. I'm sorry to share that with everybody, but that's the case.
I have
So,
the feeling
okay.
I'm suddenly feeling great.
That's right,
I'm suddenly
right,
starting
okay.
to feel at home.
Exactly. Okay.
Probably shows in my posture.
I completely agree. Okay. So, speaking of feeling at home, that is when the vomiter opens its mouth.
Ew. At least I don't have to see it because I'm rowing.
That's right.
But you're on the top.
No, and at that
Yeah.
point is when as soon as it opens its mouth, you don't have to row anymore.
Oh, it's
The water,
very
yeah,
slow.
exactly. The water flows rapidly. Everybody just ships their oar, puts it flat, and jumps up. So, and this is an amazing sight,
Yes.
of course. And just as you might expect, it is this enormous cavern of a mouth. There are no huge fangs. It doesn't really have amazing teeth. And the color too, it's not just some boring gray. This is a being that at first glance it looks dark gray. But when you look a little bit closer, you realize that it is a reddish color.
The outside skin? Or?
Yes,
Okay.
and that this, when the light hits it, is almost a glowing red. And you couldn't really see that before. It doesn't give off light. It's just a very rich color. So that's why you didn't see it glowing and flashing as it swam around. But when you were up close, you realize this is pretty beautiful in its horrifying, monstrous, enormous way. You did not really get a good look at its face. It opened its mouth as it came up. So you are not really able to, and it's just too big for you to get a full view or perspective on what its front end really looks like. So in go the warships. And so passing out of the view of the sky so that it's just behind you, there's a certain, let's see,
Yeah, let's go crazy.
well, let's see if you do a little bit of a let's do a little bit of a again, this game doesn't have really emotional mechanics, so I'm not going to make you roll. There's no way to make a roll in this system, just to see, how you master yourselves. It's not really part of the mechanics in this game, but if there were, you would have to roll. Now, the either its mouth closes or you have passed far enough that the outside light is mostly gone. And at that moment, everybody on the ship would cheer. They sort of try to cheer, and you kind of realize that nobody else was really prepared for this either. Not the full reality of the situation. So you are not the only disturbed people now. Everybody else is like, yay! Oh.
Man.
And once it must have closed its mouth because the current slows. And at the moment, it seems almost calm. There's no indication. There's a slow current, but there's no indication at the moment of anything. Just for a moment.
Are we just like engulfed in darkness? So do we see the walls of the creature, like the flesh walls or something like that? Or
Well, at the moment, this is the mouth, so it's not
it's still in the mouth.
Right.
Okay.
And so the as far as light is concerned, people had not really thought about this, so they are quickly, striking oil lamps to get some light. And there's a certain amount of confusion because nobody had really planned for this, and so, do we have any? I think there's some back there. You idiot, get it, quick, that kind of dialogue is happening. And then there's also an interesting effect. The water itself is phosphorescent. It's not very bright, but it's a little bit bright for some reason. And so you realize it's almost like very late evening kind of, or a starlight effect. You can see enough. You can't really see well, but you can see enough to see your hand move and things like that. So at least before the fires come on, and then you can get a better view in general. Now let us attempt to see what happens. So 50% chance, and I roll a 70. So for a little while, nothing is happening. So we attend to them while you are waiting and watching.
Rabbit's belly.
That's right.
Just waiting for that mouth to open
Hello.
again.
I'm just checking to see how many rounds are going to be involved here. So the creature that appears it's not too surprising at first. There's so many people that somebody is going to spot it in time, and there will be a cry, a shout that comes up. As both the other ship and your ship are seized by tentacles that come swarming up. Too many years of anime has made us casual about tentacles. Your characters did not grow up watching anime, so tentacles are a different experience for you. Yeah.
Oh,
And
no.
so, and also, instead of coming up and just waving around aimlessly, which is fun to animate, they are actually coming up in coils, touching as they come up. right? So they come up like that, not like this.